everybody, and welcome into the Casual Sports Podcast. As always, I'm Alec Cabrera. Joining me again here on Friday. You've missed a couple, but you're back. It's Matt Morrison. He finally is in. That's because we're pre-recording Thursday night. But Matt, Mike, and I went over the first 15 games. You and I, we've got the next 16. You can follow along here at the bottom. Mike and I crossed off the first 15s on here. So some of the big ones, Fitch Wadsworth, really the biggest of them all, is already been talked about. Unfortunately, Matt, you want to give any thoughts on that game before we move into what we got for today's program?
This was the Fitch game?
Fitch and Wadsworth going on tonight.
Ooh, that should be a pretty good one. Fitch, it's gonna be a big test for Fitch. So I don't know. We might see Fitch lose, but I don't know.
They dropped that one to Massillon, Washington. I know I talked about it for a while yesterday, so I won't go back into it. If you want to hear my thoughts on it, you can go back to yesterday's show. Otherwise, we'll just be like, all right, Alec, we get it. Yeah, you played your high school's in the same conference as Wadsworth. We get it. But I'll go ahead, just throw it right into what we got going on for today's show. Starting off with a pretty big one of our own. South Range, the Raiders playing awesome football right now, coming off a 50-0 shutout against Niles. Now they come in on the road to take on Jefferson. An offense beginning of the year was lighting up the charts. Past couple weeks they've let off. Their offense has gotten shut down since they've come back into NE8 playing their final season in the conference. And, you saw them drop a hard one last week, 42-14. Just got absolutely run over by Struthers, and that Struthers team turned the corner.
Yeah, that was an upset.
Yeah,
Struthers came in and upset them big.
Yeah, and it was really big to see that one. I called that one. Just got to throw that out there. I called that upset. I'm glad I did. But, Jefferson coming in, you're coming into a home game, coming off an upset. Your last home game, you beat a good Hubbard team. One before that, you lost to Girard. I would like to say Jefferson has a chance here because they are a good team. But this South Range team, Matt, they have just been unbelievable. Jefferson's the number 5 seed in Division 4, Region 13, 4 spots behind number 1 Girard. And we saw Girard get eviscerated by this South Range team. There's something about this Raiders crew this year, Matt. They're just on a whole nother level than every other team that they have gone up against this season. I think that's the case again here in this game. Like I said, as much as I want to see South Range, go down and this be a close game and see something like it, I just don't think that's going to happen. No one's been close since that 23-13 almost upset from Struthers. That's the closest anyone has played in this season. Since then, I think South Range saw that and they went, we cannot let that happen again. They've jumped on top early in every game they've played, and they have not let off the gas. I have South Range going big. I'm going to say a 4-touchdown favorite going into this game.
Yeah, South Range, absolutely unbelievable type of team to watch here. Like, this is the team that represents what high school football should be, kind of like what Alabama makes what college football should be. South Range, every year they're competitive. Look at their quarterback this year. Oh my goodness, he's got an arm.
He has 2 of them.
It's one of the best I've seen, man. So, Jefferson is a pretty competitive team, but I don't know. I think South Range is just too strong for them. I think 3 or 4 touchdowns is pretty accurate. We'll have to see.
It just feels that this South Range team has gone into a whole nother gear since that game against Struthers. They don't want another team playing close to them, and being a Division 5 Region 17 team, they feel they got that chip on their shoulder, right? And you've seen it kind of all this season long. They go up against these Division 4 schools of the NE8, and they're still the favorite coming out of it, despite being in a whole division lower than pretty much the entire conference around them. And they've gone and they've dominated, and they've done so well, in fact, that they have the top seed in Region 17. And you look at the teams behind them, Garway, Perry, Norway, and Edison, some good teams there. But I think we've kind of looked at them and go, well, South Range has been playing these D4 teams the whole season. And you look at some of these other groups, and it's like, yeah, they have a couple good games mixed in against upper division teams. But I think we're going into this postseason, South Range in this region, are far away favorites. They're likely, or at the moment of playoffs ending today, which they don't, but they'd be taking on Lakeview first round. Lakeview probably is a 6-touchdown underdog going into that game. You wouldn't be looking at them whatsoever. South Range has really elevated their play this season, and that's insane to say with, as much as they send out every year, they are just, like you said, with Alabama, it's reloading every season. It's becoming a true powerhouse here in Youngstown. Yeah. And
I mean, Billy,
I think we've been kind of in like this changing of the guard the last 20 years of who is going to be the new kind of face of the Valley. Because obviously, I mean, I think Ursin's kind of in that position now. A long time ago, it was Mooney. We've seen a lot of shifting going on. And I think we're kind of coming down to, we have 6-7 teams all kind of in that contention of, hey, we are the face of Youngstown football. And I think South Range still one of those teams that's like, hey, we want to be that team. When you hear Massillon, you think of Massillon, Washington. You hear Cleveland, it's St. Ed's. In Akron, it's Hoban or St. V. You have these schools from areas of the country that Youngstown doesn't have that team right now that, they go international and they'll go play anybody anywhere. Fitch has kind of grabbed onto that. They bring in the team from Vegas. They're playing out-of-state teams. Canfield's doing it. South Range is playing a lot of big games. They're playing good. And you're getting this expansive reach. And I love what South Range is doing here, not being afraid of going out and grabbing those tough games, because it's bringing in a lot of talent and attention to this school.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Billy Skurpak, unbelievable. I mean, he gets it done. How about the rushing game too? I mean, Blake Ewert, I believe, like he's a pretty solid runner too, and Billy can take off too. I mean, they're calling him Billy the Kid. I was reading the articles on him and everything. What a talented quarterback here from South Range. But I mean, you look at Struthers, like they upset Jefferson. They almost got South Range too, I saw. So Struthers is one of those teams that that comes in and sneak and ruins people's parties. So hopefully Jefferson can get past that and look forward to facing a tough component like South Range. Hopefully they can put everything with it. They always have a competitive team every year. So we're just gonna have to wait and see what they can do tonight.
Yep. It'll be a fun one, that's for certain. We're going to touch on that Struthers team here real quick. But next one up, Springfield on the road in Western Reserve. Now, beginning of the season, I mean, I think we all came in and go, all right.
Turn it around.
Well, yeah. Well, beginning of the season, we all came in South Range or with Springfield, and you're like, all right, we know they're not beating South Range, and that was kind of a given to start out the season. But a lot of people were expecting the Springfield team to kind of be right up there, back where they were, even after losing 8 of their all-conference players in the past offseason. They come in, they start all sluggish, and you're like, well, this isn't the team we thought they were. And I think kind of something similar with Western Reserve. You come in and you go, all right, new head coach, what's it going to be this year? Because they're coming in with John Armani, who's one of the most successful coaches we've had here in the Valley. And you see what his impact has done leaving LeBray. They haven't won a game this season with him gone. And he takes, a couple good players off the team as well. When, he moves out, a couple of players transferred. I think some went to Ursin, some went here to Western. And they come out, win the first game of the season, but then they had 5 straight duds. And finally, they get it done last week against McDonald. And now you look at both these teams and you're like, all right, well, Springfield's really turned it around. They've done a great job. Is this the beginning of Western Reserve's turnaround now? Because a win here against Springfield, well, then you have Sebring coming up the week after. You could pick up 3 wins here in a row, and no, playoffs probably not in the picture with Lowellville coming in week 10. But I think you can kind of use these next 2 weeks as building blocks for future seasons under John Armani in this West Reserve program. Same goes, however, for Springfield, still very much in a potential hunt for the postseason. The New Middletown Springfield Tigers, currently sit in 9th place. They're right on the edge of getting a home game in the postseason. So this is huge for them. This needs to come out on the road, get a statement victory. I mean, you've had back-to-back games against all right teams. And I mean, McDonald less than all right. Waterloo is about as average as can be. I mean, that's kind of the bar, right? Is Waterloo. It's like, all right, they're not great. They're not bad. They're just, it's just another season for Waterloo. It's not a great one. It's not a bad one. And it was a solid 41-14 victory for the Springfield Tigers. Now you're coming in here against Western Reserve, a team that I'm very confused over because they've been close in a lot of different games this season. And, they won the games they were supposed to when you look at it. They were supposed to beat McDonald. They were supposed to beat Liberty. Every other team on their schedule is good. Ridge, good. Waterloo, as I said, average. Jackson Milton, I think slightly above average. Brookfield, great. Conneaut, really good. And, you look at it, it was a 3-point loss to Conneaut, 1 point to Jackson Milton, 3-point to Waterloo. And you go about this, all right. So it feels like they're just under average. And I don't know where Springfield kind of lies on that, averageness chart. I think they're going back above average. I think they're back above average. Beginning of the season, they were bad. They were bad in hard-fought games because they were going against really good teams. They never had a chance to gain any momentum. They finally got something going against Lowville. Then they pulled the upset against Ridge. And now the last 2 weeks, they've gotten this team to kind of get some momentum, get that energy into the program. I think I like Springfield coming into it. But on any given Friday, I have a feeling that something's going to happen with this Springfield team, and they're just going to get absolutely blown out because they're so young, so inexperienced. That was something, talking to their coach before that Brookfield game is like, by the end of the season, we're going to be ready to go for playoffs. It feels like they are. But as, I got pointed out a lot going into that game, they're young. And I know this is a whole basically season under their belt now. You're still young, and you're going to get hit with the situation sooner rather than later that your guy isn't going to know how to handle. And that's when I kind of bring that question mark of, are they going to be ready for that moment? I know the coach is, but can you get your player ready for that moment? And when you got a junior quarterback on the other side, Luke Henning at Western Reserve, he has been in those moments. If that moment comes in this game with his dual threat ability as a quarterback, running back, or a mobile quarterback, I should say, it opens the door for Western Reserve to pull this upset at home. They're looking for back-to-back home games, home wins here, and I think that's huge. It's their final home game of the season. It's senior night for Western Reserve. It's going to be emotional. I think Western Reserve makes this thing close. I think it's a one-score game. I'd go with 3-point favorite for Springfield.
Yeah, that's a good argument there. But Springfield, tough year. You lose Brungard among other players. South Range beat them up pretty good. 27-14 against a tough Brookfield team is not that bad. So Geneva, they went into Geneva and they got them too. Lowville, they still put up 24 points against Lowville, which I look at as a plus. But Vinny Balone, just nobody's stopping Vinny right now.
That's the thing. I think the defense just relaxes for Lowville. Like, we can let up 20 points. Who cares? We're putting up 50 on the other side.
And then the week after, you get an upset over a good Mineral Ridge team, and then you go and beat McDonald and Waterloo. You got some build-up games there. I'm going to stick with Springfield here, even though Western Reserve's still trying to figure things out. Good coach. I just think it takes time to get everything running there. It's going to take a year or two. Look at Andy Hake with Valley Christian. Last year they just made the playoffs after. Andy Hake is a coach with a lot of accolades. Look what he's done to different programs like Western Reserve. So it's going to take not everybody can be like that. Not everybody can go to a new team and take a playoff team or take that team to the playoffs their first year there. So it's going to take a year or two to, figure some things out. They're 2-5. It's not that bad. They're still rebuilding. You look at last year. Last year they were bad. Let's see, what were they?
Yeah, Western Reserve right now, they're just outside of the playoffs. They're in 8 or 17 spot. They sit behind Wellsville, Buckeye Catholic, or Steubenville Catholic Central, and Buckeye Central. There's still an opening for Western Reserve, but they really need this game. Finishing with 6-7 losses isn't going to help them. Yeah. And Sebring next week isn't going to give them any playoff points. This should be one I think would go a long way to potentially moving them into a playoff spot.
So last year they were 5-6. It's kind of that area they're going in now, but they got the new coach. They're rebuilding. They went through some personal problems I've heard as well. So you just got to keep your head up and keep going. Springfield, they're rebuilding too. So it's pretty much two rebuilding teams going up against each other. They're both young. So they're both going to make mistakes.
Yep. All right. Our next game here, Matt, that Struthers team we were talking about nearly pulled the upset over Streetsboro, South Range, and Hubbard in 3 consecutive weeks. Then they take down the Cortland Bulldogs, and then they take down Jefferson a week ago. Now they head out on the road after back-to-back home games in which their offense was a ticking 41.5 points, outscored their opponent 83-17. Now they go up against Niles, who has lost 4 straight, one of those being to Lakeview, another to Jefferson, one to South Range last week that we were just talking about. I think Struthers coming into this, they're looking to capitalize on some momentum in the playoff positioning for them. They're 14th spot. Getting a win here, obviously you're not getting a lot of points for it, but getting that win, going to 4-4, then you have Girard and Poland at home your final 2 weeks of the season. If you can pull an upset in one of those games, I think it would be an upset. You'd have a 4-4 Struthers going up against 2-loss, maybe 3-loss Girard, 2-3-loss Poland. Struthers would be considered the underdog going into that. If you can pull those, I think Struthers is going to have a playoff spot, even with a record of around 500 based on their strength of schedule and the wins they were able to pick up throughout the year against other playoff teams.
Yeah, I mean, Poland's 4-3 to add in on that. But, I mean, Struthers, they started off, I mean, they blew out Aquinas, 49-6. And then they just had a couple tough games. I mean, Geneva is a pretty good team. But Streetsboro, they lost by 1 to Streetsboro. And they lost by 10 to South Range and then in overtime to Hubbard. So a lot of these, I know you were talking about it, but yeah, a lot of these could have went and became wins. I mean, they could have been in an entirely different situation than they are now. But that's just that strength of schedule you've been talking about. I think they're going to come in and give Niles a pretty good run. I think they'll beat Niles, maybe a couple scores at least. And I think they'll give Girard a battle too, as well as Poland. I mean, Girard has fallen off a little bit. They started off strong, and then who'd they play? They came into that South Range game and just completely looked like the Girard team we didn't see. I mean, 56-12, and look at their past games. I mean, 49-0 they won. I mean, 21-6. Jefferson's a tough team. But they're putting up 40-plus points in every one of their games, and then they go up against South Range, and they get blown out. So, and then they lose to Poland.
Yeah, and I think, Niles coming into this, Matt, heavy underdog. I mean, their 2 wins came basically in August. It was September 2nd, the last time they won a game, and it was against Independence, who's 2-5. They have a win over Holland, who's I hate to say it, but they're a bad 2-5 team. I mean, a 3-0 game against Youngstown East a week ago. They should have done a lot better in that matchup than they did. And they should have had a much better season than they've had to go along with that. I think Niles, culminating with this tough schedule this season and, a young team going in this tough conference, I don't think they really stood much of a chance. I think Struthers comes in, I would say, based on the fact Niles has kept it close most of the weeks, 2 touchdown games, Struthers the favorite.
Yeah, I'm going to go Struthers too.
But I don't think it gets out of hand. No running clocks in this game.
Let's say by 2 touchdowns.
All right. A team trying to bounce back off a loss here as well. The Irish of Ursin, after dropping to the Irish of St. Vincent St. Mary in a close game, they will now take on St. Joseph. Richie Giuliano is going to be on the call in Villangeli, St. Joseph up there in Cleveland for the Vikings-Irish matchup. And this St. Joseph team, Matt, not too bad this year. 1 loss, and that came to Hamilton's Baden, who is undefeated and is one of the top-ranked teams right now in the state. They're coming off a 21-20 victory over Bishop Hartley, a game they should have won by a lot more. So you look at this St. Joseph team, and I do think that there are some question marks that go along with them this season. They're a 13 seed, even with that 6-1 record. Their strength of schedule has not been there, not nearly as much as Ursin, who at the moment I believe is a 4 seed, right behind Cheney with that 5-2 record. So despite being in a worse record, their strength of schedule better, and they've only lost 2 games this season, each by a touchdown. So, I mean, strength of schedule is there. and they're 14 points turnaround away from being undefeated and likely finishing this season 10-0 with the top seed in Division 3. So it's been a very great season for them. And I do think that there is a possibility that this Ursuline team is right back in a state championship game this December.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good prediction. I think they can get back there. I mean, yeah, they had a couple tough losses. I mean, that St. Vincent St. Mary team, I mean, they're not that bad at football. 5-1, one score touchdown though. I mean, and then Fitch is just on a run. They've had a couple other close games too that could have went in the L column, but that's how
name of the game
it is. They hang in there with those close games, and sometimes you're gonna lose, sometimes you're gonna win, but at least they can stay in with those close games and never been blown out.
I mean, that's kind of the one big thing for them, right? And the one loss for St. Joseph this season was a 33-3 loss. So, I mean, they have been blown out. Granted, they've blown out every other team they've played since then until this past week when they struggled at home. Now it's their senior night, and that's the one thing I kind of worry about for Ursuline coming in, right? It's this really good team's final home game of the season. Emotions are going to be running high. But I think you got to come in and go, I think they're going to have a letdown. When you look at what happened a week ago, Bishop Hartley almost pulling the upset. And, that Bishop Hartley, they're a really good 2-5 team. But to see a 2-5 team kind of stick with this St. Joseph team, who is supposed to be a really good team, I think it opens the door that Ursin can kind of go in there with that big old offensive line and just start imposing their will. Bishop Hartley, a 15 seed for Division 4. So, I mean, not a bad team at all. 2-5 record. They're still in the playoffs. But Ursuline, I like him in this game. And I'm going to go only because Ursuline really hasn't won big since Padua Franciscan in week 2 and Brookfield in week 1. I'm going to go Ursuline by a touchdown here against St. Joseph.
Yeah, I'll go touchdown or field goal. I'll give Ursuline the win. They got, the next 2 weeks, they play East and then they play Mooney. So the Mooney game might be competitive because it's the Holy War. It's always like that. So, but
and Mooney's not too bad. They're starting to turn around this back half of the season.
No, they look all right.
Well, Matt, next one up is the biggest game of the week, biggest game perhaps of the season, as we have 2 undefeateds coming in here into week 8 looking to win the conference title. Valley Christian, led by Andy Hake, the War Eagles, going down to the Wigwam, Salineville. It's going to be a long drive down there. It's going to be a long day. It's going to be a long night. I'm expecting Southern's crowd to absolutely bring the noise. I don't expect a huge crowd because these are both small schools.
Yeah.
But I'm expecting this to just be a shootout. 2 phenomenal offenses. Southern has scored over 300 points this season. Valley Christian's at 287. Valley's only allowed 64 points. Southern's only allowed 68. These 2 teams are so great this season. EOAC championship on the line. If Valley Christian wins, they are the outright champions. They will take home the crown with wins over Southern and United, unless they drop to both Wellsville and East Palestine, which everybody knows isn't happening. So they're the conference champions if they win this game. If Southern wins, Valley Christian could still end up with a third of the title. A third. Because Southern United in week 10. If United beats Southern, Valley Christian has the win over United, but Southern has the win over Valley Christian, and it becomes a 3-way split for the title. So if Southern wins, the conference is still on the line in week 10. If Southern would then beat United in week 10, they'd win it outright, and Valley would finish second, United third. But if Valley Christian wins,
they're not looking at that scenario. They want to take them down. They want to get down there.
Nobody wants a third of the title, Matt. No. That's the big thing. No one wants a third.
Especially Andy Hick. Get an Andy Hick. How do you feel about getting a third of the title? What? I don't want
a third of the title. There is no title at that point.
Yeah, a third.
He's like, how about we'll just take the state title instead? That's what the real goal is. EOAC is this conference title. I think a really big one this year, especially for Valley Christian. I'm going to have to go back and look, I'm not sure if they've ever won the conference title here in the EOAC. So as I get prepared for this game, we're pre-recording this Friday. I do my game prep day of most of the time. All day long I do it. So potentially one of their first conference titles, at least in the last 5 years, they haven't had one. I know they had a pretty good season. What was that? Not that long ago.
I'll look too.
Okay, maybe it's been a while. But here it is. 2011, I think. If my website wants to load. Yeah, 2011 they were 10-2. However, at the time, I don't think they were in a conference. At least, it's not recorded on Max Preps at this point. But Matt, either way, I mean, you're looking at two phenomenal teams here between Southern and Valley Christian. You might as well flip a coin on who's going to win this, because I think it's that close. And I got to give a big old thank you to Richie Giuliano for helping me land this game. Initially, he was supposed to be on the call, but he's like, yo, man, you and Matt were too excited about it. I got to send it over to one of you, and I ended up getting it this Friday. So thanks there to Richie for hooking me up with this game. I can't wait to drive down there. I'm going to be in the visiting press box sitting next to the Valley Christian guys because there's a really annoying news station that decided to come to the game as well, even though they only cover one game a week. They're not like us. They don't cover 25 football games every Friday. They pick one and they cherry pick. They're not out here representing the Valley like YSN. Couple of chumps over there. But Valley Christian, they've had an epic season. And you look over at Southern and you go, have they had a better season? Because, I mean, they basically all played the same teams, right? And you just kind of look, it's like neither one has the strength of schedule worth anything. I mean, it's been an easy year, and probably anybody would have gone through this undefeated, yeah. But now you come down to it, and it's a lot of pride on the line for these two teams. And really, Southern, a win here tonight, potentially moves them into the top four, which would give them back-to-back home playoff games for the postseason. Now, for Valley Christian, they are currently the 6th seed. A win here as well gives them a shot at that top four, in which I think with a win here against Southern would go a long way to give them some points. Potentially could jump Canton Central Catholic. They have such a tough strength of schedule. I find it hard to see. But then you have Dalton, Cuyahoga Heights, Mogador, and Kirtland. As higher up Valley Christian can get in this bracket, the better it's going to be, because they can go longer without having to see Kirtland or Mogador. But they saw Cuyahoga Heights last year in the postseason. It was an awesome game, Matt, that you and I got to call last year up in Cuyahoga Heights. So I think you and I are kind of hoping maybe for a rematch of that one. I think Andy Hake wouldn't mind it too much either.
Man, I'm going to protest. I want to be on every Valley Christian playoff.
Oh, I know. It's going to be the place to be.
We got to follow them till they go.
Hey, but you got to give some love over there to Brookfield. They will have a home playoff game at the moment. They're the 8th seed in the same region. Matt, I know you and I want this more than I think anybody else out there. Valley Christian Brookfield playoff game.
That'd be amazing. Unfortunately, I won't be on that call tomorrow, but I don't know if you guys talked about that. It should be a pretty
that's actually, we're going to be talking about that one later. So keep it in your pocket.
We'll get to it.
Yep, keep it in the back pocket. Matt, I'm going to go score prediction in this one. 47-43. War Eagle, baby. War Eagle. I want it. I need it. I need Andy.
They got to win. They got to win, man. Last year, especially because of last year.
Yeah. Southern ran them over last year.
Yeah. They were still figuring stuff out.
Revenge tour, baby.
Oh my gosh. We'll be good.
Can you imagine revenge tour? They crush United, they take down Southern, then they go to the playoffs and take on Cuyahoga Heights, who pumped them last year and can take them
here. They
right? Yeah, they got to make the long drive this time. I don't want to drive up to Cuyahoga Heights.
Yeah,
we were 20 minutes south of Cleveland at that point.
That was a long night.
That was the most crowded press box ever as well.
Was that the night we were listening to Ohio State, Penn State on the radio? No, that was the Perry game.
Yeah, that was the Perry game.
Yeah. What was the night where we were on the way back and we thought we saw a shadowy figure run in front of the car? What was that game?
I have no idea what game that was.
I'm still trying to figure out what that was.
Driving over was at Lake Milton, and then some shadowy figure appears in front of our car.
And you're just like, did you see that? I'm like, yeah.
It looked like something ran across the road, but it was such a packed highway. Nothing could have.
Yeah. I don't know.
Matt, they're going to think we're crazy if we keep talking about a shadowy figure running in front of our car.
Dude, there are ghosts.
Valley Christian Southern, Matt. Who you got winning?
Oh, I'm going Valley. You kidding me?
Mr. Andy Hank and his War Eagles going all the way to the state. No, I mean, reality is, though, when, talked to Andy Hank last week, he's like, ultimately, I want to get into the playoffs, and I want to face Kirtland. That was his goal is, I want to go to Kirtland, and if we go down there, it's a gladiator's death, and I'll take that opened arms. If we go into Kirtland and they beat us, that's the only team he was okay with losing to was Kirtland. And I was like, that's the goal of this program. That's the new standard set is Kirtland football. And I'm like, all right, that's a program you want to get behind. When your goal is we got to go play Kirtland every year. I want to play Kirtland and I want to beat Kirtland. That's a whole new level that this Valley Christian team could take a jump to. I want to see it happen. We need to see it happen because in reality, the only teams that might stand a chance in this region against Kirtland, Mogador, Dalton, Valley Christian. Cuyahoga Heights maybe, but honestly, I don't think there's very many teams that are going to go play Kirtland this year and take it. They have too tough of a schedule to have gone undefeated at this point and not make it all the way to the state championship again. They're insane this year, but we'll talk about that more. I'm on the call for Southern Valley Christian. I can't wait for it. Can't wait. Yeah, don't forget to tune in, everybody. You won't want to miss it. Next game, Wellsville on the road against one of the other teams we were just the other member of the three-team trifecta in the hunt for the title in the EOAC against United, who's 6-1. The only loss has been to Valley Christian. Spoiler alert, Matt, they're not losing again this week. No. United will not go down until week 10, perhaps on the road against Southern week 10. And that is just this top three of the EOAC. I keep saying it. The top three is miles ahead of everybody else. Yeah. And that's not a knock at Wellsville. I really like Wellsville. I think they're good. Yeah. But we saw a 64-6 loss against Southern. You can't ignore that. And I think when you see that kind of score line in a game, and we know Southern's potentially the best team in this conference, and United is right up there in that top three, and we've seen what they've done to opponents this season. And then you see Wellsville lose 57-26 to Lisbon a week ago. Yeah, that's not setting things up very good right now. And United, they're on a tear. They're trying to get back, and they know Southern week 10 is their only other chance to get that title, potentially a piece of it.
Yeah. We'll see.
But how about this? I mean, Southern could go from right now kind of looking like top team in the conference. They lose this week, they go down to second. Then if they lose the United week 10, they become the third team in a matter of 3 weeks.
That's how football works, though. I mean,
yeah,
like that.
Just like that. I can't wait. I got United taking this game, though. I would probably say a 35, 38 point favorite in this one. They're playing really good since that loss to Valley.
They are. They've changed up some things.
Next game, this one is big. West Branch taking on Alliance. And you look at West Branch right now, they're doing everything they can to jump Girard in Region 13. They are just right behind them. They have the better record, but Girard still has the points based on their strength of schedule. This game goes a very long way for West Branch in this
it's a rival
region.
Game.
In this region. What's that?
It's a rival game. These teams don't like each other. I mean,
it's a rivalry game. But Alliance is 5th right now, Division 3, Region 9. So you look at that, and West Branch, if they can pull this off, they get a huge bunch of points for taking on a team like Alliance. Even a loss helps them a little bit. But can you imagine what a win could do to perhaps where they sit in the playoffs? I mean, I know 1 and 2 really isn't all that different in terms of your seeding, but you want that one spot. You don't want to be second, especially not when you had the better record at the end of the year.
Yeah.
A loss here takes them down a little bit of a notch, and it helps out Alliance. But conference game, it's a rivalry.
They're both
offenses are
They're
great.
13 minutes away from each other.
Drew DeShields is freaking awesome.
What's that?
Drew DeShields is freaking awesome.
He's awesome. He's another guy that's up there. The quarterbacks we're talking about this year are Drew DeShields, Brock Lowry from Canfield, Billy Skurpak, and I think and Vinny Ballon.
I was gonna say, don't you dare forget Vinny.
All right, those 4 quarterbacks. Those are like the guys to talk about.
Yeah, Drew DeShields right now 8th in the state in passing yards with a 1,911.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
quite
the mark.
Go to college,
and he's also got 400 rushing yards.
That team's getting a gem wherever they go, if they decide to play college.
Right, but West Branch in this game, Matt, I don't know whether or not to pick him as the favorite. I think Alliance.
It's even.
I do think it's very even. I mean, let's pull up state rankings here. Alliance ranked 101st, West Branch 84th, and they dropped a couple spots based on the strength of schedule. As I'm starting to slur my words, I swear I've just been talking a lot today. I haven't had a drink, I promise. But
well, shut up.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go West Branch. There, how about that? So I stopped stuttering. Apparently, I don't know what's going on. It's too late.
I'll go West Branch, but I say close.
Mm-hmm.
3 points, 7 points, maybe like a 10-point game, even.
I don't know. I think I'm still liking West Branch because they beat Revere. I'm gonna pick them as far as they go, only because they beat my alma mater's rival. That's the way I'm going. So I'll take West Branch as well. But I agree, it's going to be close. The next 2 weeks for West Branch against Carrollton and Salem going to be close games as well.
Very stellar team, 5-2, I believe.
We're really going to see what this West Branch team is made of these final 3 weeks. It'll be interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Next one, I don't think very much to go into. Canton Central Catholic going on the road to East Liverpool. The Potters are going down in this one. They won week 1. They haven't looked good since. I'm taking Canton Central Catholic. Give me the Crusaders.
I'll go there too. Crusaders.
Next one up, 2 pretty close teams, even teams in Fairport, Harding, taking on the Wyndham Bombers. Bombers lost the last 2, and Fairport Harding's lost the last 3. Neither one's having a great season. 2-5 versus 2-4.
Yeah,
Matt, there's a little bit more your territory than mine up there.
Football teams out here are kind of a dying breed. A lot of them are going down. Wyndham. I think Wyndham. I don't know. I think they're only playing varsity. I don't think they have a JV team. One of those teams is, but same with David Anderson. You look at Wyndham, not bad of a team, but look at the teams they're playing. These teams are away from the area because there's no teams in the area to play. They're going all the way to Ravenna to play. They're going, PV is a close one, but St. John is Ashtabula. They're going to Lisbon and Ashtabula to play teams because there's no teams around here. So, you got Matthews. Matthews is different too, but so is Fairport. So, they're both evenly matched. I know Fairport in basketball plays Badger. Badger doesn't even have a football team. So, there's one there. Maplewood doesn't have a football team. So, there's a lot of teams in this area that don't have football teams because it's just a small area.
Yeah.
And that's just the point of it. But, I don't know. I'll go Fairport in this one.
All right, I'll flip the other side. Bombers is a better football name, so I'll take it.
Yeah. My dad actually thinks that's a Wyndham Bombers hoodie in his closet somewhere. I don't know why. I have no idea why. I don't know. I've seen it in there before. I'm like, why do you have this?
I'm going to need a story behind that one day there, Matt.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's your dad. I'm sure there's a story.
I don't know. I think my sister got it for some reason. I don't know.
All right.
He never wears it.
Matt, I hate to break that. He's got a secret kid who went to Wyndham. There you go.
No.
Our next game here, Mineral Ridge on the road in Sebring. Matt, this one's going to be a wash. Sebring might not score a point. I'm taking the Ridge hard.
Yes.
40-point favorite.
I'm going Mineral Ridge, man.
Yeah, you've been buying into the Rams this season, huh?
Oh yeah, I like the Rams, man. It's a nice little town. I like their turf. We'll see how good they've been. A pretty good team so far this year. A couple hard fought losses, but their volleyball team's good. They got a lot of they're very athletic school, even though they're like Badger, but they're on an upper scale.
They're
it's
like
still
Badger,
farming.
but good.
Yeah. Badger, but they have more than 2 sports.
Yeah, that's more than 2 sports.
Yeah.
I got a 40-point favorite. Ridge is just they're playing really good football, and postseason wide, they're sitting in the 7th spot for Region 21. They're in a good spot, just ahead of Brookfield, ahead of Rootstown, ahead of United, just behind Valley Christian. I mean, we're talking about a lot of teams here, Matt, that you and I have gotten very kind of tied into between Ridge, Brookfield, Valley Christian. And to kind of keep them all on this same level and potentially see them for postseason, I think you really have to be impressed with how well Ridge has played this season, being a 1-loss team. And I mean, strength of schedule, sure, it hasn't been awesome, but it's been enough to, get you over a couple of other 1-win teams or 1-loss teams, pardon me, like United and Brookfield. And you're sitting up here right behind the undefeated. So it's a really good spot for Mineral Ridge to be sitting in. Got more wins to finish out the year. They're going to find themselves potentially in that hunt along with Valley Christian and Canton Central Catholic, hunting for one of those top 4 seeds.
Yeah.
Our next game might be a little closer. I'm not sure how to feel about this one at the moment. Poland 4-3 on the road, going up against Lakeview, who is playing one of their final 2 home games of the season. But you look at what Lakeview has coming up: South Range, Jefferson. We know those aren't going to be wins. They've lost 3 straight games now. But you kind of go back at the beginning of the season and you're like, they were playing good football. What happened to that team that we saw going through the first 4 weeks? I mean, I know the strength of schedule wasn't there. And then they went into this conference that has just been brutal. I mean, it's been a brutal conference. We can say that. I mean, every team is really good. This NE8's reminding you a little bit of the SEC. You just start sending people down there and it's where undefeated teams go to die, is this NE8. They're all playing phenomenal football this time of year. I think I'm taking Poland in this because they come off a huge upset against Girard. Lakeview is coming off just a really bad streak, and they haven't been able to get anything going. They have scored a field goal since that win in Niles on September 9th. They haven't gotten in the end zone, and you need to get in the end zone to win a football game unless you're Pittsburgh Steelers. So I'm going with Poland in this game because we've seen them hit the end zone. That was a couple of years ago, Matt. Your team doesn't even see the field goal post anymore.
I know. But I'm going to go Poland too. I'll go Poland here too. Lakeview, they've fallen off. I mean, quite frankly, they played tougher opponents. I mean, okay, you beat Liberty and Niles and LeBray, but those teams are like at the bottom of the barrel. Not to say that to, throw shade at them.
Liberty's coming. Liberty's coming back.
Yeah, but that's better. That's a better term. They're teams that are looking to get on the rebuild side. Okay, so they're still trying to figure things out. Okay, so
Liberty's an 18 seed right now.
LeBray, they just lost their coach.
Yeah.
So
I really like the direction Liberty's gone, and they put that new quarterback in.
They've gotten better.
And they put that new quarterback in, and he's led them the back-to-back.
Niles is just an up-and-down team.
Yeah, they can't decide where they want to be, it seems. Yeah. But we got 15 minutes left on the show, a handful of games left. This one, I really just want to throw onto one side of this. It's the Edison Wildcats.
Oh, man, they're good.
They are real good, man. They have been dominating the competition. They have allowed 38 points on the season. That's 5.43 points a game.
Oof.
And I know the big part of that, a big part of that is that strength of schedule. And that's kind of the one knock against them, right? Who have you played? Nobody. They have played nobody. And that's why they're an undefeated team sitting in a 5 spot behind Norwayne, Perry, Garway, South Range. They're one of 3 undefeated teams in Region 17. South Range, Garway, the other 2. And you look at them and go, yeah, they're probably not going to stand a chance against those top 4 teams because we don't know what they're going to be like against top-level competition. And I think this game is a good one to go show. They're hosting Harrison Central, who obviously got dominated their last 2 weeks against Beaver, Local, and St. Clairsville. but both those teams are very good. If we see Edison come in, put up similar numbers, I think it starts to build some legitimacy to, what they're building here late in the season, because Harrison Central started out really great. Same thing for them. They got into conference play, ran into a wall, and decided not to run through it. And, you've seen Edison, they just held the gas down every week. And, East Liverpool got the most points against them this season with 14 last week. So I don't think anyone's touching Edison to finish out this season. It should be
wait to the playoffs.
One of the I'll say it, one of the easiest 10-0 seasons a team is going to run into. I mean, they had Toronto, they had Matthews on there. But you look outside of that, Monroe, Wellsville, Woodward, no one really there was challenging this team. And what an epic facility they have over there too, a beautiful field. Yeah. And it's gonna get some playoff games.
Too. There's Matthews too. Not a lot of teams in the area, so they schedule teams far away. I like Edison. And Edison comes in and beats them up.
Yeah, and I think Matthews is a good team.
Nobody else to play.
Right.
It's just like the team I called last week. Brush, I mean, they're not in the conference. They're traveling all over Ohio to try and play teams.
Yeah.
So.
Well, coming down to it, 4 games left, I think. Newton Falls and Liberty. Matt, I'm taking the Leopards in this one. They've been turning the corner these last 2 games. Yeah, they got a win over McCampbell. But I think the big one, on the road, they went and took down Champion, 35-34. We hadn't seen this team play anybody close. What?
This Champion team beat the Newton Falls team. So
right. We were on that call. It was bizarre.
Yeah.
That was Bizarro World.
Yeah, it was.
I love Liberty coming into this game, and their quarterback is spectacular. Tyson Lawrence Watson, the freshman, is cooking with this team. And I know his turnovers have been a little bit high, but the more time he gets to play, they have found another star quarterback potentially here in Liberty. I mean, you give up DC Farrell, you kind of go question marks beginning of this season, and now it feels like back half, you've really kind of turned something around, and you have a shot now with another guy. It's really amazing. A lot of credit goes to, Lawrence Watson and his teammates, but to that coaching staff of John Simon to continue to go out and find talent within this school system that keeps just getting players poached every season. Truly, congratulations to them. I know a 2-4 season right now, it doesn't feel like it, but you look at what's left on the schedule. Newton Falls, LeBray, Garfield. I see 2 wins. A 4-6 season doesn't seem terrible with all the stuff they had go wrong in the offseason. That's a great year to finish that as, especially when, your losses. Western Reserve, all right. That was early in the season. They didn't know what they were going to be. That was finding themselves. Girard, great team. Lakeview started really great. Brookfield, awesome team. Then you get into games they can win, and they won. And then they upset Champion. And now they're coming in. I like Liberty. I don't like it by more than a touchdown, but I like Liberty taking this game.
Liberty here too. They've jumped around a little bit. Newton Falls has fallen off a little bit.
Newton Falls, I think they lost confidence. Because they beat St. John. Then they were close to Jackson Milton. I see they held their own against Ridge, close to Champion. And I think at that point they got exhausted. They were tired of these close games. And I think they lost a little bit of heart because you seen they got blown out by Garfield. They beat LeBray. Everyone beats LeBray this year. And then I saw them last week against Brookfield, man. I was on that call in Newton Falls. And in the first 5 minutes of the game, it felt like they had I hate to say it, but it felt like they had kind of already given up. Brookfield had a couple of big plays, even though they got called back on penalties. The first drive for Brookfield ended in a touchdown, and Brookfield hit that touchdown, and all the life was sucked out of Tiger Stadium. And I just felt at no point did it feel like they wanted it more than Brookfield. And that's kind of the one thing on a football field. I don't care what the score is. I need to see you wanting it more than your opponent. Give me the effort place. I just didn't see that a week ago, and I think it's going to carry over. I think they got a good chance to win against Campbell and Crestview final 2 weeks, but I like Liberty because I feel this team right now with rallying around the young quarterback, trying to give him some energy and some momentum moving into next season. I think they want this more, and I think they want it for him and for, the direction this team is going to go. They also, want to send their star and Derek DiMattia off with, one more final huzzah. Because they're not going to get it in week 10. Week here, 8 and 9, they got to make it a 2-week special.
They do. But
Next one up, this ain't going to take very long. Orange, 0-7, going on the road up to Perry High School. Matt, you and I have seen that facility. We've seen that team. Beautiful. They're good. They're going to win.
Yeah, Perry.
I'll go 7 touchdown favorite to Perry.
Oh, yeah. That's probably right.
I think the defense has been pretty good for Orange, all things considered. They've had the help of a running clock most of the time to kind of hold the other team down from going up big, but I think just with Perry's offense, and I mean, we've talked about this conference up here a lot this season. The Chagrin Valley is just outstanding football. And, you know, we've gotten a big dose of them here with getting a couple of teams on the network that play up in this region. And I think as we continue to grow up into the Ashtabula area, thanks to, 4-4-0 and goal, we're going to keep hearing about how great these teams are, and Perry's one of them.
Absolutely.
So 2 games left. Jackson Milton on the road in Waterloo. Waterloo at 3-4. Jackson Milton at 5-2, coming off 2 losses in their last 3 games to Lowellville and Ridge. They beat Sebring in the midst of it. Now they have Springfield on the schedule next week, Waterloo this week, and I don't know how to feel about Jackson Milton. I mean, I saw him against Lowellville, and I've kind of paid attention to him, especially ever since, and I feel like they are an average team that had a couple games go their way thanks to, an easier schedule. The Latonia, LeBray, Sebring. I mean, those 3 guaranteed wins, and they won the close ones against Falls and Reserve. They won close games there, and you have to give the credit. But I think when they've played good teams, Lowellville, Ridge, especially, they got exposed for being average. There's nothing wrong with being average, but they're going to finish a good season. Yeah, they're going to finish a real good season, I think. And they're going to get some playoff time, but they're not one you look at and go, all right, it's a 5-2 team that's going to go somewhere in the postseason. As soon as they hit trouble in the postseason, Jackson Milton's going down. I don't see a long run for them. That's not knocking them. They're just not that level of a team this season. I think they have the players that with a little bit more experience under their belt could be. I mean, Scavi is a great quarterback. And then you look at Waterloo, and I think it's kind of the same storyline over there of, they're an average team playing average football. This is a battle of average for me. And when Jackson Milton's been in these games, right, battle of average teams, they've won. So, you got to give that. They're that slightly above average type team. So I'm going to go Jackson Milton here. But I would honestly say this is going to be a 1-score game. I expect this to kind of finish like Reserve and Newton Falls did. Make this thing 1 score and see what happens.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Jackson Milton here. We're very close. They've had a couple games, not going to say easy games, but close games against teams that are on the rebuild. We talked about Reserve and LeBray, so and Latonia. We feel bad for Latonia a little bit. I mean, the situation they're in, I'm going to give them some courtesy. Absolutely, they've had everybody leave. They're throwing freshmen in there. They're learning. I hope that Latonia team really builds on the next couple of years. I hope they become really good. But I'll go Milton here close against Waterloo.
Well, Matt, our final game here on day 2 of the high school football extravaganza here on your sports network. LeBray on the road taking on Brookfield.
Yep.
Warriors by 35. I was
supposed to be on this game. Some personal things gotta be set first before I can come back. Now I'll probably be back next week, but I gotta take care of some things. School's getting there a little bit, so you know. But Brookfield, I mean, they should have no problem coming in here against LeBray. LeBray is definitely down. Brookfield's better than ever. I mean, next year we're going to be talking about Brookfield. Okay, they're going to be down a little bit because they're losing 14 guys. But this is the year they're going all in. LeBray hasn't won a game. Brookfield's only lost 1 game, and nobody's even looking at the Ursin game. They're looking at every other game. They're
right. Brookfield's almost looked at as an undefeated team right now because, they lost to Ursin. Oh well.
Yeah, still went out. I mean, they got Garfield. I think they can take Garfield. Yeah, that's
the one I'm split on. I don't know.
It should be close, but I think they can take Champion too. So
I think much like last week, Brookfield's going to come out. Randy Clark had an agreement in that last game against Newton Falls. He came out and said, he's like, hey, once we hit that running clock, they went running clock right away once Brookfield hit 30 in the first half, and they shifted it to the 8-minute second half quarters. I think there's going to be a similar gentleman's agreement on this one. LeBray will have to pull their starters first. That's Randy Clark's philosophy. He's not pulling his starters until they do.
Yep.
So, whoever blanks first in this game, is going to be the one to pull everything out. So Brookfield's going to take this. But, much like we saw last week, 34-0. Yeah, Brookfield could have put up 70 in that game. They honestly could have. They were that good. But they didn't want to. There was no point in doing that for them. And no. I don't think there's going to be one this week. There's no glory in destroying LeBray. There's nothing there.
No.
Maybe some revenge from the past couple of seasons, but I don't think there's any need to get revenge on an 0-7 team. They've already felt it enough this season. I mean, they've scored 7 points in the last 2 games, and that Newton Falls team beat LeBray 27-0. So I mean, there's a huge gap, a 50-point gap between what these teams are likely, if they were to go at it, potentially could be at. So I got Brookfield going. Probably their second straight shutout of the season after not collecting one at this point. I think they get one here. And the only reason I could see them maybe letting up a couple scores here to LeBray is they want to leave starters in a little bit longer to get that defense some reps to go into Garfield next week on the road, because they're going to change up that scheme a little bit. So watch potentially for Brookfield to have a couple defensive mistakes this week, because they're going to be changing things up to go against that wing tee offense of Garfield.
Yeah.
But Matt, that does it. That's all 31 games of our teams here signed with YSN. I believe 25 of them going to be on the network shown. But Matt, that brings us down to it. Highlights of the week. What is yours?
I mean, I wasn't here last week, but my Cleveland baseball team won. And that was definitely last week. This week, the Atlanta Braves won the division, and I was happy about that. So that's a good highlight there.
Got me beat. I don't really have one. Shoot. Yeah, baseball.
All right. It's all right.
Yeah, I think I got one. I'll think of one here while we hand out this award. This week's Meathead of the Week.
All right, so I had a couple ideas on this one, but ultimately, I just got to give it to the guy who decides to run out on the field during the Rams game with what was that, like a paint bomb or something, a smoker bomb, something like that.
Pink smoke grenade or something.
Yeah, something like that. And then, Bobby Wagner, NFL veteran, former member of the Legion of Boom, lays a boom on this dude. But what a meathead. Like, why do you do that? Obviously, there's some alcoholic beverages involved, but I mean...
Yeah, there was quite a few meatheads going on this week in sports.
Yeah, but ultimately, I'm just going to give it to that guy, so we don't have to deep dive.
There's probably about 3 or 4 different guys from the Ohio State Rutgers game we could have given it to. I guess I'll go my highlight of the week. Ohio State kicked the crap out of Rutgers. I like seeing them do it. I'm wearing them this week. I'm excited to see them go against Michigan State.
Every day.
First roast. Yesterday's show I had Youngstown State and the Holy War. Day before that I had Youngstown State. Day before that I think I just had a plain sweater. My highlight is always Ohio State winning undefeated.
It's always Ohio State or Youngstown you got on.
Yeah. But that's going to do it here. Casual Sports Podcast, Power Hour Super Show up next on your sports network. I'm Alec Brennan. That's Matt Morrison. We'll see you on Monday to recap it all.